Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, and I'm here actually out at Mount Grenadier, which is not far from Albury, about an hour or so's drive east of Albury, and just heading out and about, and called in here this morning and thought it was a good chance to have a talk about the Pajero. So I've had the Paj now for a bit over four and a half years, and I thought it's time for a bit of a long-term review and discussion about the vehicle and my thoughts. I've done 120,000 kilometres in that vehicle now, so I feel like I have some insight into how it handles and how it drives and its capabilities. So that's what I wanted to talk about this morning, guys. Okay. Let's start from the start. Why did I buy the Pajero? I bought the Pajero because I already liked them. I had one as a work vehicle back in about 2004, 2005. Had a Gen 3 Pajero Exceed as a work vehicle for a year or two, and just found it really nice to drive. Really good manners on road. Did a little bit of off-road with it, you know, just gravel tracks and things mostly. I was still working in the property industry back then, so we had the odd site visit to large development sites, paddocks basically, that sort of thing. And I really liked the way it drove. I liked the seating position. It was comfortable, and it seemed, you know, to my limited knowledge at the time, it seemed capable. So back in 2018, I thought, you know what, I'd love to get back into four-wheel driving. Had been involved in four-wheel driving when I was quite a lot younger as a passenger, mostly in the old aluminium-bodied Land Cruisers, short wheelbase and long, and Land Rovers. And then when I was a little bit older, still didn't have a license, but a little bit older, driving Suzuki Sierras on a farm, so that was good fun too. So yeah, I wanted to get back into four-wheel driving. Prior to the Pajero, had a Suzuki Grand Vitara XL7 that definitely wasn't kitted out for you know, serious off-road travel. Had a low-range transfer case, but we were running road tyres and stuff on it, so we had a couple of adventures in that and a couple of misadventures. Story for another time. So back in 2018, I decided that I wanted to get something a little bit more capable than the Suzuki Grand Vitara, and something that could do a little bit more off-road, and I also didn't want to spend a bucket load of money, so I naturally gravitated back towards the Pajeros, having driven one back in 03, 04 for 12-18 months. And so I started looking around second hand, because again, I didn't want to spend a bucket load of money, and I wanted silver or the bronzy metallic colour. They were the two colours that I wanted, and as it turned out, I found one through a dealer that was next demo. That's the one that I've been driving, that was not a lot more than a used one that I found, and it was a lot closer, so I didn't have to pay freight, so I went and picked it up. So got the Pajero in September of 2018, and it's a 2018 NX, and hadn't done a lot of research into them. I just sort of hoped it would be okay for some light four-wheel driving. And I guess that's probably the key point here, is I didn't have a clear picture of the kind of four-wheel driving that I would want to be doing. I probably didn't even really think about different types of four-wheel driving, to be honest. I just knew I wanted to get off-road and off the beaten path and out there, and see places and go places and do things. So yeah, bought the Pajero completely stock. Did a couple of trips, I think, still with road tyres on it. I think the first thing I bought was a little ARB compressor, because even if I didn't know much, I knew I was supposed to let air out of your tyres, and then you needed to be able to put it back in. And started finding tracks to drive and places to go, and gradually have built the vehicle up over the last 4 years. So as a platform, the Pajero, I feel, is really good value for money. It performs exceptionally well off-road compared to a lot more expensive vehicles. in no small part because of the Mitsubishi Super Select system and the fact that it's independent suspension front and rear. So the independent suspension gives you a lot of clearance under the middle of the vehicle. So in some cases where your patrols and Land Cruisers might get hung up on their solid axles, on their diffs, because they've diffed out, the Pajero will actually drive through. Traction control also helps an awful lot. If you follow the channel, you've probably seen some videos where I've been able to demonstrate the traction control working really well, where it actually stops a wheel until that wheel gets traction again and then it starts. Probably some of the best footage of that was the Border Track video, where we had the car driving past the camera and you could actually see individual wheels starting and stopping on the way through. So I believe the Pajero is an exceptionally capable, competent vehicle. Having headed up to the Wagons late last year to the Performance Pajamboree and seen a heap more Pajeros, and particularly the way some of the guys wheel those things, yes Dave, I'm looking at you, that they can go anywhere and do just about anything. They're a great vehicle, and it's a shame Mitsubishi discontinued them. So in a review, if I'm thinking about my experience with the Pajero, where do I see the shortcomings? The shortcomings in the Pajero are the shortcomings that are common to a lot of four-wheel drive wagons, and that starts most obviously in the area of GVM. So you don't have a huge payload in these vehicles, and again, that was probably something that I didn't give enough consideration to at the start, and when I was building the vehicle I was kind of like, okay, I need this, I need that, and just kind of added things. And I'm pretty much right at the top end of my GVM with my vehicle. I really can't and don't put a lot of weight on the roof rack. If we're going away as a family, we take the camper trailer, and that carries the load, rather than putting it on the roof rack as we did when we first got the vehicle. So having a camper trailer certainly helps there. So being independent, yeah, there's just not a lot of room to upgrade the GVM, whereas some of the solid axle four-wheel drives, you can add 4, 5, 6, 700 kilos of additional GVM capacity through a variety of options. The other big limitation that I found with the Pajero off-road early on was the rear departure angle. So there's a lot of vehicle behind the rear wheels, yeah, one of the relatively early mods that I did was putting a Razzler rear bar on the Pajero, and I think I was one of the last Pajeros they did. So thanks for that, guys, because it's been awesome. Really saved the back end of the vehicle many times and paid for itself time and time again. So yeah, not a great departure angle on the rear. Conversely, they have an awesome approach angle. There's very little of the car forward of the front wheels, so the approach angle is really good. Ramp over is not too bad. Departure angle is yeah, a little lacking. And again, because you're a little bit limited in how high you can lift the vehicle, you're limited in what you can do about that departure angle. There's probably options using bar work, custom made bar work, to improve that more than I've been able to achieve. But to me, that's the GVM and the rear departure angle are probably the two biggest things. When I was looking at the Pajero, the other natural vehicle I considered was the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado. Now at the time, there was two main reasons that I didn't go for a Prado, and one of those was most definitely price, and it's probably a bigger price gap now, but at the time there was around a $22,000 price gap between the Pajero and the Prado, and that was basically all the upgrades that I thought I was going to want to do to the vehicle. So that was the difference between buying a stock vehicle and having it stock, and being able to do the wheels, tyres, suspension, draw system in the back, you know, all those things that you want to do to a vehicle, roof rack, awning, sort of the whole 9 yards. The other big difference between the Prado and Pajero was power. So the Prados in recent years, I think it was 2021 or 2022, they've had a boost, a retune from the factory, and they've got a bit more power now, but at the time they were about 20 kilowatts less than the Pajero. And knowing that I might be towing, knowing that I was probably going to have a reasonably heavy vehicle by the time I built it up, I did want something with a bit more power. Probably what was counting in the Prado's favour was the long range fuel tank, because the Pajeros do have a fairly small tank, and there's not a lot of options for increasing that size. And that probably brings me on to my next limitation with the Pajeros, is unfortunately the range of aftermarket accessories is just not there compared to, Toyotas and Nissans for that matter. They're just not as established in the off-road market, and so the range and variety of off-road accessories is simply not there. They are out there, but there's just not as many to choose from. Long-range tanks, for example, ARB do a long-range tank for the Pajero that you take the factory tank out and you put the ARB one in. And I was going to do that until I realised in the fine print that that actually gives you 20mm less ground clearance under the vehicle. Brown Davis, I think it is, also do a long-range tank option for the Pajero, and that's a secondary tank that sits at the back, sort of wraps around the third seat row storage wheel well. So that actually adds more weight behind the rear wheels, which is not something that I wanted to do. So look, they're just some examples of some areas where I personally found some limitations on the platform with the Pajero. Not criticisms of the vehicle by any stretch of the imagination, but just some areas where I found some limitations. Overall, because I'm probably waffling on a lot here, it's a cracking spot here. I love coming up to Grania. So overall, I've been very happy with the Pajero. Up to this point, it has gone places I never thought it would go. It has done things I never thought it would do. They are exceptionally capable vehicles with the drive line system that Mitsubishi have. Yes, I've had some breakages and failures, but if you follow the channel, you've seen the kind of driving I do. The vehicle has had itself tested. Let's say that. I do long days in the high country when I get the time to get up into the high country. We did 4,000 kilometres across the desert through outback New South Wales and northern South Australia last year. So we've done plenty of pretty deep river crossings. So yeah, look, been very, very happy with the Pajero up to this point. The question now is, coming up to the end of my lease period on the Pajero, do I keep it, or is it time to try something else? If I did try something else, what would it be? So again, if you follow the channel, you would have seen my video on the NES Grenadier that I did almost a year ago now, a bit over a year ago probably. And the Grenadier is something that I've been following with a lot of interest. To me, it's a vehicle that looked like straight off the factory floor. The way it comes from the factory, it was something that you could jump in and you could drive it right from the get-go. Solid axle, front and rear diff locks from factory if you order that option. Really cool switch panel up on the roof that's pre-wired into the engine bay for your auto-elect to hook up whatever you need. Comes from the factory if you want it with a winch and a second battery system, so all under warranty from the factory. There's a lot to like about that vehicle and those inclusions. Did have an opportunity last year to go for a ride in one in the passenger seat, and more recently had an opportunity at our local dealer for the NES Grenadier to have a look at the production vehicle up close. So what I found is that the build quality looks awesome. The engine and drivetrain look great. There's a lot to like about the vehicle. For me, it probably sealed the fate that it's probably not the vehicle for me right now at this time. it would be right at the top end of the budget that I could afford, and possibly more than I could or wanted to afford, really. They're around 120 grand when you option them up on the road. And looking at one in the flesh, what I found was there's a lot less room in the driver's footwell than I'm used to having in the Pajero. So in terms of long days in the vehicle, moving your legs around and changing position, there really wasn't a lot of scope for me to do that in the Grenadier. And the other thing was the Recaro seats that are in that vehicle. I didn't find them comfortable, and you know, I'm a big guy, so I need a bit of lumbar support, and I just didn't find them comfortable. And my wife, who has basically the opposite body shape to me, also did not find them comfortable. So if you're paying that kind of coin for a vehicle, to me it's got to be 100% right. And look, a lot of people have no issue with the seats. Like, they're good quality Recaro seats, don't get me wrong. They just don't suit me personally. So there's nothing wrong with them. And likewise, a lot of people have got no issue with the amount of space in the driver's footwell either. So I've no doubt the Grenadiers are going to go really well, and they're going to be an exceptionally popular vehicle. They're a great looking vehicle. The build quality looks amazing. There is a lot to like about that vehicle. So the other logical option, if we're looking at wagons, and for now I am looking at wagons, because I've enjoyed the wagon format with the Pajero, and I don't really want to go to a ute just yet. So if we're looking at wagons, the other logical vehicle to consider is the 76 Series Land Cruiser. Now, I've always kind of probably been fairly critical of the 70 Series Land Cruisers, because I've always sort of been of the view, why would you pay all that money for a vehicle you've got to fix? You know, the clutch isn't great, the rear wheel track's not the same as the front, the acoustics are not great, yada 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 yada. And you know, all those things that you know, people naturally go and fix or change on their 70 Series Land Cruisers after they buy them. So I guess in thinking about whether I keep the Pajero or whether I consider something else, looking at the type of wheeling I like doing, I'm not looking to do super technical, crazy difficult stuff. I'm probably more about the trip and the destination and going places. And look, if there's an opportunity to take a fun and interesting track along the way that's going to have a few challenges, absolutely, I'm going to take that track. But I'm not about going out and finding the most difficult hill climb and driving it just because it's there. So the 76 Land Cruiser is a great vehicle for what I would look to do. It's not a crazy flex monster or anything like that, and even if you spend a lot of money on them on coil conversions and such things as people do, they're still not that kind of vehicle, really, I don't think. Can't really say because I've not owned one. So what I see as the benefits of that platform is there's a huge amount of accessories, there's a huge amount of options for upgrade and changeover parts, and it is a platform that is really well understood from an engineering perspective, and you've got the opportunity for fairly large GVM upgrades, probably not in the wagon so much as the dual cab 79 series, but you've certainly got much more opportunity in something like that compared to the Pajero. And I guess, look, the other logical option would be to look at something like a Series 5 or Gen 5 Y62 Patrol, and that would probably offer me a much more similar driving experience to what I've had in the Pajero, in that it's quite a modern vehicle, comes with an automatic transmission. But again, it's a well analysed, well understood platform, and has the opportunity for GVM upgrades and those sorts of things. And if you wanted a ute down the track, where you can turn it into a ute. So yeah, lots of food for thought there. And I am definitely thinking about whether I keep the Pajero or not. And there's a strong chance that after 4.5 years, you know what, it's time to try something else. So for those of you that watch the channel because I drive a Pajero, I hope you stay on the channel. But yeah, I think it's probably time to retire the Pajero and look for another vehicle that will almost certainly be a wagon, and we'll just have to wait and see what that is. So look, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll probably upload this as like a bonus midweek video because you know, not everyone's going to want to watch me sitting here, much as the view's pretty great, you know, apart from the guy blocking it. Not everyone's going to want to watch this, but I really just wanted to touch base with you guys, let you know what my thoughts on the Pajero were, and as I said, I've been really happy with it, notwithstanding the breakages and failures that I've had with the vehicle, because I think they're fair and reasonable given the use I put the vehicle to. And but I think it is probably time for a change, and stay tuned to see what that change might be. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Like this video if you liked it, comment down below if you got any questions, and no, I'm not telling you what I'm thinking. As I said, it's probably going to be a wagon. I'll tell you, it's not going to be a Grenadier. I guess there's those two other logical choices. One's probably a little more refined and a bigger vehicle, and one's an older platform, so we'll just have to wait and see which way I go. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.